Hey everybody, it's Tony the Blacksmithing Gamer, and here we do everything from blacksmithing to 3D printing to bring the things inside the video games into the real world. This week, we tried something a little new, and unfortunately it didn't work out exactly as planned for us. But we're going to show you some of the failures along with some of the successes. This week, we're making the Buster Sword from Final Fantasy VII and trying our hand at casting it. Let's show you how we did it. Alright, so, bit of a dilemma this week just because I started a little late on the project. It's Monday night and I am just starting the build. Here's the plan. I'm going to try to get the Buster Sword in its full size printed before the weekend and finished. The problem is that's going to take over 100 hours of 3D printing. So I'm pretty much going to be running this guy non-stop, and hopefully everything goes right. If something happens, I don't want to just not put out a video. The backup plan is I'm thinking about sparking up the forge. I'd have to make sure I have enough material to actually finish that project as well. Don't know if I'm going to be able to finish the project in time, but we'll find out. Stay tuned. Let's check the first print. Alright, so unfortunately, it looks like the Buster Sword in its full size might not work because I had a pretty serious nozzle issue. It was completely clogged. It didn't even extrude. That will go in a bad nozzle pile. But I have another idea. I'm going to be trying something new. So I'm going to make a smaller version of the Buster Sword because the big one it's a little bit too big for me to be able to print it before the end of the week. But I got my hands on a whole bunch of aluminum. I'm going to try melting that down and casting it. So I've been meaning to get into casting for a little while now. Well, this might be the first attempt. We'll see how it works out. Stay tuned. Well, let me get this 3D printer together here and let's give it another go. Alright, so we have some ingredients to make some casting sand, namely some pretty fine sand, some kitty litter, empty container to put it all in, a pretty fine strainer, and the thing we want to cast, which is in this case a relatively small Buster Sword. I'm going to try pulverizing it instead. I'm going to take a Ziploc bag here. Taking a bunch of it here, putting it in the Ziploc bag, sealing it up. Throwing it on the mantle. show you. You can see how it's chunked together almost here, but then it crumbles into even smaller pieces. So, food for thought. It's another way of doing it. Now that I have that taken care of, I'm going to take some of the sand here and just sift out some of the big chunks in it. You can see already the big rocks that are left behind. Just dump that in there and do the next batch. Okay, so I just sifted a whole bunch of sand into my bucket. It's pretty fine at this point, and I've been putting all of the extra large pieces into this pail, so that's quite a bit of collected here. Next step is to take my somewhat pulverized kitty litter and do the same thing. I don't need nearly as much in there, so we're gonna grab some, mix it up, sift it, and then mix it all up with some water. So I got the kitty litter mixed in with the sand. There are a few larger kitty litter chunks. Yeah, we're just gonna give it a go since this is the first try anyway. If it acts up, honestly, we'll try a few different things, but we're just gonna see if the casting works. So here's for the first go. Now I'm just slowly adding some water to my sand, a few drops at a time. That's in there, and mixing it together. So I was told that best way to tell if your casting sand is ready is to compress it and just break it, and if it has a relatively clean break, you're pretty much ready. I've added enough moisture in it, I believe, that it should be ready. So I'm gonna fill up the box, get ready for my casting, and we'll see what happens. So since I have no idea since my casting will actually work, I'm going to be making an open casting this time around. What that basically means, it's only going to be good for one side, but honestly the goal for this is to see if A, I am able to actually melt the aluminum, and B, if this casting sand actually works. So here goes nothing. So we got the forge all sparked up. We got our aluminum, or at least a whole lot of aluminum tabs. We have our container we're going to use to put them all in, and we're going to try to smelt them. Alright, so we got it almost full to the brim. After a few minutes, it looks like the aluminum is getting a little dark. So, another update. It's been a few more minutes. Looks like it might be going down. No, it looks like it went down. Definitely went down. So, something's happened to it. So, good news. I think we're getting some liquid aluminum in there. Well, it's pretty evident I'm going to need a bigger one of these. And that was about, that was quite a few caps, and I got pretty much just the, almost the whole handle cast on that one. Obviously it wasn't a very good pour, but, you know, it's working. That's the theory. Here's the reality. My setup as is, my forge is about to run out of propane, as you could hear. My container for casting is not nearly big enough to cast what I was hoping to, even with multiple casts, and well, I'm out of propane, so I can't really heat much anymore. It's Easter weekend, so everything's closed. I'll see if I can get some more propane. As for a new container, I'm going to have to figure that out. That guy isn't going to be good enough. And yeah, we might just have to 3D print it. Might have to abort on the casting side of things, unfortunately, but let's turn this off before it completely goes out. As you can see, the gauge is on 0. And this guy is out. But it did melt, so that's always good. So unfortunately, the casting didn't work out exactly like planned, but we have the theory and the beginnings down, so I'm happy to report we got some casting done. Unfortunately, it's not nearly big enough. It's definitely a start. It's ugly. I'm gonna work on remaking this box. I'm gonna work a little bit more on the sand, and we're gonna have to figure out a new container. So let's just 3D print this week's project and show you the Buster Sword. So we've tried to do some casting. Unfortunately, that didn't pan out for us. We learned a lot of good lessons, namely make sure your crucible is big enough. Also, well, figure out your mixture for your casting sand, because that was a challenge. And also make sure you have enough propane. So with those 3 lessons in mind, and while the whole COVID thing happening right now, it's really hard to get some of the supplies, including 3D printing filament. So I made a little bit smaller of a version of a Buster Sword. So the idea is I 3D printed this to show you guys, obviously, that you can 3D print a Buster Sword and how it could look. But the goal is I'm gonna paint it and make it look nice. But the goal is I'm going to use this guy to be the negative of a cast that I will do in the future. Obviously, with some of the supplies I'm lacking, it won't be this week, but stay tuned. If you want more casting stuff, it will be coming down the road. But let's get to painting this guy and doing a little bit of detail work on it. So let's get to it. So this week we tried casting that Buster Sword. It was a little smaller than it would be to scale, but there's a couple of reasons for that. namely, Amazon isn't shipping packages as quickly as normally, so 3D printing supplies are a little slower to come by. I'm putting my 3D printer to work to make some supplies for essential workers that need mask clips. I would strongly suggest, if you have a 3D printer, to consider to print some of these mask clips for essential workers. I'll be throwing the design in the link below. So normally I try to make a lot of these items to scale. This week we're making it a little bit smaller. And again, the reason for that is the intention is to cast this guy. I ran into a few small issues casting, and namely my crucible isn't big enough with what I have. Also, I ran out of propane this week, and also I have to figure out my casting sand a little bit better. But stay tuned for that in a future video. Just so you had something to look at, we also made it and painted it in 3D printing. So this is obviously Zacks' Buster Sword. We're continuing our cosplay segment this week. Let's check out this week's cosplayer. But thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button down there below. If you want, follow me on any of these social media websites so you can get daily updates on the projects I'm working on. Thanks again for watching. I'm Tony, the Blacksmithing Gamer, where every week we're making things from the games we love.